Hi, this is Lija here. Today let us discuss the basics of PCR. PCR or polymerase chain reaction is a technique for producing millions of copies of a gene or a particular DNA segment. It is ideally suited where the quantity of biological specimen available is very low, such as a single fragment of hair or a blood stain available at the site of a crime. PCR allows amplification of specific DNA segments from a very small initial quantity of DNA template even down to just a single molecule. This technique was developed by Carey B. Mullis in 1985, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1993. PCR resembles an in vitro form of DNA replication. It involves repeated cycles of heating and cooling of a reaction mixture containing DNA template, DNA polymerase, primers and nucleotides. From this simple basic principle, many variations have been developed with tremendous applications in modern biology. PCR has revolutionized modern biology, in particular genetic manipulation, diagnosis of genetic and infectious diseases, genotyping and DNA forensics. Following the publicity surrounding Michael Crichton's movie, The Jurassic Park, virtually everyone is aware of the potential applications of PCR in paleontology and archaeology. In this age of COVID-19 pandemic, we have witnessed the role of PCR in disease diagnosis. Each cycle of PCR consists of 3 steps: denaturation, annealing and extension. Following extension, the reaction is returned to the denaturation step and the PCR cycle continues. Each cycle approximately doubles the amount of DNA, as a new strand of DNA subsequently acts as the template for replication in the next cycle. The 3-stage cycle of denaturation, annealing and extension is repeated for about 25 to 40 times in a typical PCR procedure, and this results in an exponential increase in the quantity of DNA. Now, let us discuss the process in detail. The first step in PCR is to mix the following ingredients or the components in a reaction tube: the DNA molecule or the target DNA, 2 PCR primers called the forward and reverse primers, a thermostable DNA polymerase and deoxyribonucleotides, and finally a buffer solution. First one is the original DNA molecule or the template DNA. Virtually any form of DNA can be used as a template. The target DNA may be part of a DNA sample that is complex, which contain multiple genomes from different organisms, but could also be as simple as a previously PCR amplified DNA. One of the advantages of PCR is that DNA from relatively clean samples need not be further purified to be used as a template for amplification. It is possible to simply heat samples to near boiling to release DNA and then add the resulting lysate to the PCR reaction tube. Such simplicity is the hallmark of PCR, but sometimes the biological sample contain inhibitors of PCR such as heme or polyanionic mucopolysaccharides that must be removed by DNA purification. Second is the 2 primers which are needed for DNA synthesis. These are short pieces of single-stranded DNA that are complementary to the sequence at either end of the target DNA segment. Typically, PCR actually amplifies only a chosen region or target sequence within a complex DNA sample that is defined by the PCR primers. So, PCR primers are the key to only amplifying a defined target sequence from a complex sample. PCR is a wonderful technique, but it may fail if the primers are not correctly designed. To ensure specific binding to only the target DNA, PCR primers need to be of sufficient length, and typical PCR primers are between 18 to 22 nucleotides in length. The probability of a primer bind to a random sequence decreases as the length of the primer increases. Besides length, the sequence of the primer is an important factor. The sequence must be complementary to the beginning and the ending of the target DNA, and the primer cannot be self-complementary. the overall number of G, A, T and Cs within the primer and the specific order of these bases affects the overall PCR efficiency. PCR primers should also have a GC content between 40% and 60%, which means there should be a fairly equal number of G and C in comparison to A and T across the length of a primer. The distribution of the bases is also a key characteristic, and stretches of repeated bases destabilizes the primers and pose problems during chemical synthesis of the primer. The sequence between the two primers can cause issues too. If the forward and reverse primers have complementary bases, especially at the 3' end of either primer, two primers will preferentially anneal to each other rather than the target DNA, called the primer dimer. Because primer dimers are stable, DNA polymerase can start synthesis and the resulting double-stranded primer dimers amplify during the temperature cycles rather than the target DNA. Another additional PCR primer sequence dependent problem is called hairpin. This occurs when two segments of DNA on one primer are complementary, causing the primer to fold over and anneal to itself rather than the target DNA. The PCR design programs available via the internet check for these issues, so a researcher can redesign the primers by moving the location where the primer anneals within the target DNA. Next is the DNA polymerase, which is needed for the manufacture of DNA copies. PCR involves several high temperature steps, so a heat resistant DNA polymerase is required. Thermostable polymerases are isolated from bacteria living in environments at high temperature up to 90 degrees Celsius or higher. Taq polymerase from Thermus aquaticus is most often used, but since the introduction of Taq polymerase, a variety of other thermostable polymerases from other thermophilic organisms have also been used in PCR. PFU polymerase from Pyrococcus furiosus is used when increased accuracy is desired because it possesses proofreading ability unlike Taq polymerase. Telepolymerase, isolated from Thermococcus leptotylis, also has 3' to 5' proofreading exonuclease activity to create accurate copies. A supply of nucleotides is needed for DNA polymerase to make the new DNA copies. Modified DNTPs are sometimes used to label PCR products with radioactive or fluorescent markers or with haptens like biotin, fluorescent, etc. The modified DNTP is typically used at a concentration much lower than unmodified DNTP. A buffer is also needed to ensure optimal conditions. Several reagents containing buffer ions, monovalent salts and divalent cations required for polymerase activity have been described for use in PCR reaction. The second step of PCR is to place the tube of ingredients in a special machine called the PCR machine or the thermocycler, which is capable of altering the temperature of the PCR reaction tube quickly and accurately. The thermocycler alternates the temperature from as high as 95 degrees Celsius to as low as 4 degrees Celsius. In denaturation, the DNA sample is converted from double-stranded DNA to single-stranded DNA by heating to approximately 95 degrees Celsius. The heat melts the hydrogen bonds that hold the two complementary bases together, and the standard PCR reaction denaturation step lasts for about 15 to 30 seconds. In the second step called annealing, the temperature is dropped to around 60 degrees Celsius, allowing the primers to bind to the complementary sequence in the DNA sample. The sequence of each PCR primer is the main determinant of the primer's melting temperature or the TM value. The melting temperature for a primer is the temperature at which the primers are hydrogen bonded to the complementary sequences in the target DNA and the other half is unattached. The melting temperature differs from one primer to the next because 80 base pairs are held together by 2 hydrogen bonds, whereas the GC base pairs are held together by 3 hydrogen bonds. The more G or C in a primer, the more hydrogen bonds and therefore more heat is needed to dissociate the primer from its target DNA. But this parameter is one part of the equation to calculate melting temperature. In addition, the concentration of salts in the environment around the primer and target DNA, the concentration of primers and target DNA, the interaction among the bases within the primers themselves, called the nearest neighbor effect, all affect the melting temperature of a primer. Melting temperature calculations are typically determined by computer algorithms, many of which are available online. The reason that melting temperature should be calculated accurately for PCR is because the annealing temperature for the reaction is usually set 5 degrees Celsius below the lowest melting temperature for either the forward or reverse primer. If the annealing temperature is set too high, then the primers may not anneal to the target DNA and therefore will not amplify. On the other hand, if the annealing temperature is set too low, the PCR primers may bind to a similar sequence outside the target DNA, and this leads to mispriming. In addition to establishing the correct annealing temperature, both PCR primers should have fairly equal melting temperature, that is within the 5 degrees Celsius of each other. Otherwise, one primer will bind to the target DNA at the set annealing temperature and the other may not anneal, and this results in no amplification of the target DNA. The third step, called elongation or extension, the temperature is increased to optimal temperature for the type of thermostable DNA polymerase used, typically around 72 degrees Celsius. At its optimal temperature, DNA polymerase uses a pool of nucleotides to elongate or extend the primer. Elongation or extension time depends on the length of the target DNA. The longer the target, the more time is needed for DNA polymerase to create a fully length copy. Typically, 1 minute for each 1000 base pairs is sufficient. DNA synthesis goes from 5' to 3' for both nerve strands because DNA polymerase adds the incoming complementary nucleotides onto the 3' hydroxyl group of the primer. This gives 2 partly double-stranded pieces of DNA. Notice that the 2 new strands are not as long as the original template. They are each missing a piece at the end where synthesis started. However, they are double-stranded over the region that matters, that is the target sequence. Typically, a PCR reaction will be done in 20 to 40 cycles in 3 different temperatures. Each cycle consists of a denaturation temperature, annealing temperature, and finally an extension temperature. As the cycle continues, the copies with single-stranded overhangs are rapidly outnumbered by segments of double-stranded DNA containing only the target sequence. So, the vast majority of the final copies are double-stranded target sequence. The final PCR copies are called PCR amplicons or simply the PCR products. Theoretically, the number of target molecules should be doubled after each cycle, resulting in an exponential increase in the amplified DNA molecule. But the efficiency of exponential amplification is less than 100% due to suboptimal DNA polymerase activity, poor primer annealing, and incomplete denaturation of the template. The PCR efficiency is expressed following this formula. After the completion of the PCR cycles, the samples are loaded onto the wells of an agarose gel and then subjected to electrophoresis. The gel is then stained with a suitable stain like ethidium bromide or cybergreen for visualization. The basic PCR protocol has been modified in many ways to achieve different objectives. A few examples of this is RT-PCR, inverse PCR, multiplex PCR, and so on, which will be discussed in yet another video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please share and subscribe if you liked it.